Welcome to episode 54 of Mad Props. We appreciate you being here. If this is your first time tuning in, please subscribe or follow or whatever. Just be a part of the family, the Mad Props family. We appreciate you being here. Thank you so much. Also follow us on Instagram, Mad Props Pod. We're doing a lot of stuff there, just kind of updates, and I'm gonna start just posting stuff. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna basically be my personal Instagram that also gives updates on shows. So definitely go follow that. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We're going to be joined by Sophie Krauel. She was the #1 college tennis player in the country, won the national tournament, went professional, and then decided she's done. She's going to hang it up, and now she's working outside of tennis, well, kind of outside of tennis, with a sports performance company. So we're going to learn all about that. We're going to learn why she left tennis. We're going to learn what she's doing now, her hobbies, her jobs, all that stuff is going to be coming up. Sophie and I met when I was at Gonzaga in 2021. I was working with the women's tennis team, doing their social media, doing their video, and she was a big part of it. She was a volunteer assistant coach for Gonzaga women's tennis. And I met her there, and she is an awesome person. She is extremely nice, a great person to talk to, a great person to hear from. She has a great story, so it's going to be really fun. Guys, if you haven't already, like I said, subscribe and follow. Also, Schnabel Studios, man, is the podcast network that keeps this thing going. We have other podcasts on it. You can follow that as well. If you subscribe to the YouTube channel, like from this video, you're going to have already subscribed to Schnabel Studios. If you don't, which statistically 96% of the people that listen to this podcast do not, just saying, subscribe to it really helps us out. If you're listening right now, please follow us. We really appreciate it. We appreciate every follower. Every follower helps us out as well. We really appreciate, even if you don't follow, hey, we appreciate you even for just listening. You can follow Schnabel Studios on social media. You can follow Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn, and obviously YouTube. You get a lot more updates there. You hear from all the shows, Sketching Up, Southern Hospitality, Mad Props. You hear from Offstage. You hear from upcoming projects. That's where you're going to get it all. So if you want just Mad Props, Mad Props Pod. If you want it all, go subscribe and everything to Schnabel Studios. You can also search Schnabel Studios wherever you get your podcast to hear this, Sketching Up, and Southern Hospitality. It's all there if you just search Schnabel Studios. So we're not going to get too much, we're not going to do too much more. We're going to kind of get right into it. I want everybody to get right to this interview. It's a really good one. So Sophie Krauel, formerly Sophie Whittle, coming up right now, right after this.
Hi, I'm Sophie Krauel. Let's start this show.
Sophie, thank you so much for joining us and being here. Thank you for taking some time, all that stuff, all the thank yous out of the way immediately. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. It's good to see you, and thanks for having me. I'm honored to be here.
Yeah, of course. I was really happy when I reached out and you said you can come on. I feel like there's a lot of interesting stuff we could talk about. I remember wanting to have you on one of these podcasts after you went on Zags on Air, which was something that came out of a club I started. I listened to that. I was like, oh, I need to get her on mine eventually as well, because there's so many interesting stories and stuff like that. And for people that don't know, Sophie was one of the top college tennis players and has now transitioned into the next part of her life. What are you doing now these days? Like, what are you working? What are you doing?
Yeah, so I work for a startup company called Extra Mile Institute, also known as EMI. We partner with Gonzaga Athletics, so I get to work with my alma mater, which is so amazing. Get to work with all the coaches and student athletes and broader Gonzaga on well-being and mental performance programming. So it's been really fun just to be in a different realm, but still around athletes and the university. And so it's been really great.
How did you start getting there? Like, what brought you into that?
So Travis Knight, he's the strength and conditioning coach for the men's basketball team. He started doing sessions with the basketball team called PGMs, personal growth meetings, and he would meet with them weekly and basically talk about all things related to just holistic performance. So taking care of the human side of things. As a strength and conditioning coach, he's perfecting the different things in the weight room, but the mind has so much power in the level that all these athletes are competing at. And so just really taking care of that side of things. And then he was tasked by an outside donor actually to put together a team to help support other student athletes at Gonzaga and just figure out how to create a product that could best support them and address those human factors as well. And so myself and three others were put on to this team, and we've been working with the just Gonzaga atmosphere for this is our second year now, and we're in the process of scaling and working with other companies. And it's been really great. Lots of challenging things, just learning a lot. This is my first kind of big girl job, I guess. And so I've been learning a lot and wearing lots of different hats, and it's been challenging, but also super rewarding as well.
And you say it's your first big girl job because you played a lot of tennis in your life. You did a
Yep.
lot of tennis, and you went through college. You were ranked number one, won the fall national championships, and then you went on to play pro for a little bit, right?
Yeah, so I played for 3 years, dealt with quite a few injuries, but also was that's no excuse for why I moved on from that career. But I just was kind of ready to move forward and find something else that I was super passionate about. But tennis was a huge part of my life and still is. It just looks a little different. I get to work with the tennis teams, and it's really fun to just be around the sport still, but not in the same realm.
How did you know like this was it though? Like what hit you like it's time for me to move on to a different path?
Yeah, I mean, I always loved the challenge that tennis brought, just the competitive side. I'm so competitive in literally everything. If you talk to anyone, they would be able to say that right back to you. And so that was always there, and I always was striving to just improve, and that was something that just fueled me. But I just not necessarily fell out of love, but I just was ready for that next step. It was something that I did my whole life and had my identity pretty much wrapped into that. So I just was ready to find something new and something else that I was super passionate about and continue to kind of just enhance those similar characteristics that made me the tennis player that I was. But I'm getting to utilize those same traits in my job now. And so it's been really good.
Do you ever get the itch to like start training again and get back into it, or have you really come to peace with this?
No, I've kept the peace with it. I think just being around the student athletes has been just something that's filled me up. And just seeing them get to do what I got to do for so long. And I still like to do a lot of the same things training wise. I like to push myself in just whatever I'm doing. And so that's something I still crave and I still do. But definitely not in the mindset to go back by any means. I'm happy with my decision. And so it's been really nice.
And it seems like just a seamless transition. You're working with like the mental health side of stuff like that, and I feel like tennis is like it's extremely mental. I mean, I learned more about it when I got to Gonzaga, and I worked with the tennis teams. That's how we met, and then I also got to work at like the U.S. Open and different tennis players and stuff like that. Like it's a huge mental game. So being able to bring in like the things that you used for yourself and teach them to the, I mean, it has to go hand in hand, right?
It does. And like the nice thing is we aren't in the mental health space. We're just more on the mental performance and well-being side. So we talk about lots of things like confidence, focus, team cohesion, just connection and communication amongst one another. And so we talk about all those like mental tools and mental skills and just aim to like enhance all of those things. And so just being proactive with everything. A lot of times when something's wrong, then you seek help or you try to find the fix. But our company is on that front end trying to be proactive with it and give those tools and skills before anything happens. So then, hey, like, okay, I'm not feeling confident. What can I pull out of my toolbox to help enhance that? So we kind of are doing more of that, which has been really fun and working in collaboration with all of the other just amazing support staff and department wide at Gonzaga and just our broader connection with a lot of people outside of GU. So just learning and trying to figure out the best way to kind of integrate into these ecosystems.
Did you see yourself getting into like this, the mental performance side of things? Like, say when you were in school, I'm assuming tennis was like, that's what I want to do. But if there's something outside of it that you're thinking of doing, like, what was that dream? I guess not the dream job, but what was the job you thought you were going to have? Or was this kind of the direction you always wanted to go?
It was not the direction I wanted to go, not by just because I didn't really, I mean, I knew about the mental side of things. Like I had done so much work just for my own game and just to for my own personal growth. But this is something that's so new and that we're trying to create. So it's not something that I ever thought I would be doing. But when Travis was talking to me about it and just hearing more about his vision, I just was like, I need to learn more. And I want to be able to be a part of like building this company from the ground up. And so that was something that intrigued me. I've always had like an entrepreneurial side to myself. Growing up with my parents, like they have their own business, and my brother has that as well. And so I just was learning from them. And that's something that I've always been passionate about. And I actually started my own company on the side doing like wedding planning and wedding coordinating this past year and a half. So I've had lots of weddings this past year and have lots more next year. So started that and really had no ties to that other than planning my own wedding, my Jack and I's. And so I just was like, okay, there's such a need here, and found that there really aren't any coordinators here in Spokane that do it outside of the venues. And so I just found that niche here, and I've been able to kind of capitalize on that, which has been fun. So it's just a side gig, but it's fun too.
But it has to be a passion if you're going to do a side. One thing that people don't realize about side gigs is like a lot of people want side gigs, right? They want like the part time, they want this, they want the
Mhm.
entrepreneurship. But like if you don't have that passion for the side gig, you can fall
Yeah.
out of it really fast. So you must have really got passionate about it when you're doing your own to even pick it up as a side gig.
I did, and it's kind of funny how it started. We hired a wedding coordinator for our wedding, just help with that day of and make sure that those things were executed without like having my family or my friends having to worry about setting certain things up or making sure we stayed on time. And she was a great woman, and I mean no harm saying all this, but I just there were certain things she was asking me the day of our wedding, and I just was like, hey, let's just figure it out. And I don't know, I just have that kind of mentality like, okay, a challenge comes up, like I'm just going to figure it out. Like I don't need to ask a million questions. Like let's use some rationale here. Like, okay, the place card can either go one or two places. Let's just pick. And so certain things like that, I just was like, okay, I know that my attention to detail and organization, and I love all of that. And so that's something that I've always been passionate about, and just decorating and planning events and things like that just for friends and family. So I was like, might as well just try and see how it goes. But I've been enjoying it. It's been fun, but definitely something just for the side because I love my job so much. So it's been fun.
So you do yours, and then you're like, I think I'm going to start to. How do you get clientele now? Like, how did you get your first client? How did you continue getting
Yeah.
clients after that?
Yeah, so I pay like a vendor fee on the knot and wedding wire to just advertise my company and just my services and things like that. And so people just reach out through that if there's something that intrigues them from your services or they want to know more. And so then you set up that consultation call with them and then kind of talk through just what they're looking for. But I only do the day of and month of just because I don't have the time and I don't want to take away from my job because that's the priority. So just being able to do that on the weekends is something that is what I can handle. And also like I don't want to um just overpromise and underdeliver. That's never something that I want to do. So just making sure that I can follow through with that. So I just advertise through that. And then I've gotten some referrals just based off of like the work that I've done, which has been good. So I had 12 weddings last year and I already have six for this next year. So it's been fun.
So we've now talked about it for 4 minutes. You haven't said the name of your side business. So what is it called, and how can people find it?
It's called Above and Beyond Events. So if you want to look it up, you can just Google it. I haven't made a website or anything yet, just because it's just something that's on the side. But if you look me up on the Knot or Wedding Wire, you can find that. Or if you know anyone that's getting married in Spokane area that needs a coordinator or just needs some guidance, don't hesitate to reach out.
So say this hits and people start getting to it and it starts blowing up. Would you consider, and I know you love your job, so you don't have to say anything bad about your job, but would you consider like taking on this business for yourself as something like, is this something you see in your future? Is just kind of having your own business, being your own boss and doing something you're really passionate about that you love? Or do you kind of see this as a side business and you just kind of want to keep it that way?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any expectations, which I think is the reason why I've been able to kind of get to where I've gone just so far with it. I mean, I don't see myself doing that full time anytime soon by any means, but I don't see myself stopping just doing that on the weekends when I have the time. And I do really enjoy it. And it's something that, like, you just feel good when you're able to help people. At least I do. And it's one of the best days of people's lives. And it was the best day of my life. And I just know that those people that were there to help make it um, just make it all happen is so appreciated and something that I don't take lightly when I think about our day, Jack and I's. And so being able to do that for other people has been really fun. But so I don't have any expectations, just going with the flow. But it's been really cool just being that in that entrepreneurial just side of things with my current company. And then also just doing it on the side as well in a different way. 'Cause I did that with tennis too, like, that was I was in charge of my own schedule, I was in charge of, like, my finances and all of that and doing all those things, so I've been in that realm a lot, it's just looked a little different.
We gotta get you a social media page. Gotta get you a website. Gotta get you on
Yeah,
all that so you can start
yeah.
promoting that way. All right. So somebody, you do the wedding planning. You've had your own wedding. Give us the top five
Uh-oh, you
things
froze.
to remember. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll just start from right there. So you've had your own wedding. You've done wedding planning. Give us the top five things for somebody that's having their wedding to remember going into it. You don't have to give away any things that you would do with your consulting, but give five things to remember going in.
Thanks. Okay. Well, so many people get so stressed out, which I don't understand because, yes, there's a lot of things to do, but at the same time, it's all going to work out and it doesn't have to look the same as. So, I guess my first thing is just relax. It's going to happen. The second thing is it doesn't have to look the same as the people whose weddings you've attended before or family, friends, things like that, or what other people want. It's all about you and your partner, and that's all that matters. So that's my second thing. Third thing is dessert is my favorite thing, and a lot of people skimp on that. And I know a lot of people aren't huge dessert people, but there are dessert people out there. So make sure you take care of those people. Um, I would say just talk with your fiance or your partner, whoever like that you're planning the day with. Just make sure that you each um, get to communicate of what's important to you, because that might look different. Like Jack and I, the priorities that we had were a little bit different, but being able to like communicate what was important to each other was just made that day even more special. And then also just include each other in some in the decision making process, because although although Jack wouldn't be upset with me saying this, like I planned 99% of it. But he was involved with the decision making, and he had different tasks that he did, and he was really excited and super helpful. Maybe 99 is too high. I planned like 90%. But he was so helpful. And so don't just, I guess this is number six, don't just leave it on one person to do everything. Make sure that you work together, because it is both of your day. So
5 plus 1. 5 plus 1.
plus
There you go.
one.
You get one for free too. You get
Yeah.
one for free for listening. And so Jack Krauel, he's a Gonzaga legend.
Yes.
Uh, I met him and you separately, which is it's very odd to meet people that are dating, but you meet them and you meet them separately and you don't realize it, and then you like find out it's like your worlds collide. It's very
Yeah.
strange, but so you guys got married.
hmm
Let's talk about how you met. How you met it. You obviously at Gonzaga. How'd you meet? How'd you get together? And then obviously it's led to this. So
Yeah, so we met our freshman year. So we were the same grade. We actually had like three or four classes together, but we didn't know each other at all. He played baseball, I played tennis, so we knew of each other just by wearing our Gonzaga backpacks and things like that, seeing each other at freshman class. But funny enough, his dad coached college tennis on the men's side for Portland State, and so every year the women zags and then the male zags, they host a tournament, and so they're typically one weekend after the other. And so it happened that um, Portland State was coming to the men's tournament, and his dad was coming. And so with his dad came little Gus, who's now a sophomore in college. But he was so little when he came to, and he was like their little water boy running on the courts. And I just remember seeing him running around. I didn't know who he was, but Jack was there, and he was watching his dad's team and the Zags and just all the tennis. And I was there supporting our team as well. And he came over to me and started talking to me. He said he knew I was on the tennis team, and so was asking about how our girls were doing, and just where I was from and just certain things like that. And so we were getting to know each other, and we talked for a couple hours actually. And it was just really great to meet another just tennis fan. He comes from a tennis family, which is really funny and very random. He actually got recruited for tennis, which is not a lot of people know. But he ended up playing baseball. But both his siblings played college tennis. His dad was actually a college tennis coach at Gonzaga as well. So just really small world. His mom she's a beast, but she was Mike Roth's assistant for a while. So just so much crossover just in the athletic department. But so we got to know each other then, and then we just became really good friends. Um, Myself and my teammate Grace, we would play ping pong with Jack and his teammate Trent, and we played ping pong like every day, and it was super competitive. He won most of the time, which it really pains me to say that. He's a very good ping pong player, but we had a lot of competition there, which was fun, and we ended up starting to date at the end of our freshman year. And then, yeah, the rest is history. We just we started out as friends and just slowly became closer and started dating from there.
Do you ever take him to the tennis courts? Like he beats you in ping pong. He's like, all right, let's go to the real court and take it on there.
No, well, one time I remember playing against him. Shoot, you kind of froze. There you are. One time I played against him when I was still playing at GU. He came and visited, and we played a set. And he has a really good serve. And I just remember I was actually down 1-2, and I was really not happy. I was like, "Oh my gosh, like what is happening? He plays baseball. He doesn't even play tennis anymore." I was like, "Okay, I need to turn it on." And so then I stopped talking to him during the set, and I just like he would try to like high five me, and like I was like, "Nope, we're not friends right now." And so then I ended up beating him 6-2, but it was kind of funny, but
The
we haven't
competitiveness was turned on.
yeah, the competitiveness was there.
So if it cuts out or if it stops, just say something, or if you hear the question, just
Okay.
start going. I'll edit it from there because
Okay,
it has
cool.
been breaking in and out. But I could do it all in post, so
Okay,
I'll just
cool.
let you know now. So Jack and I, that he was a part of what was my greatest call in my broadcasting career, which isn't a long career. It's a very short career, but we called my last two games. I'm sure he's gone on some calls since then, but my last two games, it's on my Instagram page at Chris Schnabel if you want to see it. But we called Tyler Rando his
Mhm.
walk-off home run. It was like my last Zag moment. And he was a part, he's etched into my Zag history now. He was the last, we got a shout out the next day on the broadcast, and it was all fantastic. It was great. Um, it was all great. So, but
Yeah.
he's etched into my Zag moment. That's all I have. That's the only Jack story I have.
I love it. That's a good one.
He's etched into my story. Yeah, he's a baseball player. Actually, he also, one other thing about him, just really quick going off, he had his like senior day
Mhm.
story. I don't know if you want to tell that because you probably could tell it better than I can. I know it's not about you, but it is a great story. His senior day, like
Yep.
at bat story.
Yeah, it was amazing. So graduation day, senior day, Mother's Day, just awesome, amazing day in May. And so we had all gone to graduation, and all of his family was there. Not that my family being there is a huge deal, but it was awesome to be there to see it. But we were all there, we were watching, and he had had a really great game so far. And I just remember his mom coming over to sit with us for a few minutes, and she was talking to my dad, and she was like, I just have a feeling he's going to hit a home run. And we're all just like, yeah, like it's going to happen. And he had had a really great game so far. And so there were a couple plays before where he was at bat, and the guy in center field made this like amazing backwards diving catch, and it would have been probably an inside the park home run. But the guy hit it or had an amazing catch. Jack had a couple of great at bats, and then he comes up to the plate and he hits a home run. And we're just like, oh my gosh, it was amazing. And I think the coolest thing is you could see all of his teammates. Um, and you could just feel like their energy and their excitement for him, because he just was such a great teammate. Probably one of the best teammates that you could think of. Just always there to lift you up. He didn't get a ton of playing time during his college career, but like he never let that stop him from cheering each other on. And even if he wasn't put in, he was always there to support and lift those around him up. And loudest one on the bench, first out of the dugout to hype someone up after they've hit a home run or had a great play or whatever the case. So you could just see the reactions from his teammates and even his coaches of like how happy they all were for him. And he was obviously stoked. Like you could see him just as he was running around. And he's funny because he watches it all the time, and he'll like he always loves to tell the story, and like I just am so happy for him that that happened on that day, and happy for his family too. He comes from a family that has like 18, I can't believe I don't know this number, but it with people married in, it gets confusing, but like 18 zags. So it's just crazy with the amount of zag history throughout their family, and a lot of his family was there, and so you could see his grandma in the background like jumping up in the video, and I don't know, it was just an amazing day. And we then went on to have a graduation party afterwards at his house with his roommates, and his cousin is a musician, she's unbelievable, and her band were playing, and it was just such a great day, and the fact that everyone was there and the support that he got from that was really cool.
Yeah, I remember we were talking about it before broadcast one time or something like that. And I worked not only on the broadcast, but I worked for the broadcast. And he was telling me about it. I was like, yeah, I could go find that video if you want. Because I asked him if he had it. He was like, no. I was like, I'll go find it if you want it. I'm sure it's there somewhere. So I sent him that. So it's a great story. But let's switch over to your tennis career, your Zag career, because it was a pretty good one. It was a pretty successful one, if you would say. You got you had a great career. You got like, I don't want to. It's not like a jersey or time, but you got like a banner hung up at
Hmm.
Gonzaga for you for your great Zag career being recognized. I remember that was one thing, especially when I started working with the tennis team. I would shout from the rooftops, "Is like we had a national champion. What are we, like? Let's boost it up." But how'd that feel getting recognized like that? Getting yourself like hung up in the Stevens Center, like the court that you had your just excellent career on.
It was great. I mean, I think that yes, my banner's up there and my picture, my name and everything, but I wish that we could have like my whole team up there from all 4 of my years, just in my coaches. Obviously, my 2 coaches that were there for DJ was there my whole career, and Nat was there most of it, and they were just such a huge part of the success that I had. And it's yes, I was the one that got that acknowledgement, but I think it just shows that it's such a team effort, even though it's an individual sport. Like I had my teammates there pushing me each and every day. Grace, who was my doubles partner, who we went to the NCAA tournament together. We had a great career, and played most of the majority of our college career together. And she was there for All Americans that whole week. And she just was the biggest support, and just honestly, like we just had so much fun together. And DJ was there, and it was just such a fun time. And I just remember like every night when we would go get we would go get bolognese at the same Italian restaurant, and we'd get acai bowls and smoothies and things like that. Like obviously I remember the tennis and that success that I had at that tournament as well, but I mostly remember the time off court and just getting to spend it with my teammate, my coach, and obviously my family. They don't live too far from there, so they were there most of the week, if not the whole week. And so that was really great to just get to spend it with all of them. And um but it was an honor, obviously. And but I just think that it would be amazing if we had it of everyone up there, like my whole team and my coaches as well. But I know that that's not the real world. So I get that that's not what they would do, but I owe it to them is what I'm trying to say.
I'm gonna lift the curtain for anybody listening right now. That wasn't just like athlete speak, and this is because I know you outside of like this and the podcasting. You are like one of the nicest people on this planet. Like you're not just saying that. You actually think that. Like you are one of the nicest people out there. Actually, being one of the nicest people, how were you able to turn it around and be so competitive? Like how are you able to get on the
I
court and
was
be
not
so
nice on
competitive?
for real. Let's just say that I was
You can't be.
very ruthless, very competitive. Yeah, I don't know. I just think there was like a different Sophie on the court. But I think that my same qualities are always there, but the competitiveness is just something that was different. And I think that my work ethic was something that I just constantly was trying to beat myself. Like I wasn't trying to beat my teammates or those around me. I was just trying to beat myself and be a better version of myself, because I knew that there was like another potential or another level I could unlock. Just because that athlete in you, you're always striving for more, but that was something that drove me. And also like pushing those around me was something that really fueled me as well. So just trying to elevate those around me as well. But yeah, I don't know. My on court versus off court is different. But I think that that's what, I don't know, that makes me me. And obviously, I don't have that same competitiveness in the tennis realm, but it comes out in other areas. So just different sports.
So you kind of when I was there, you were like kind of like an assistant coach with the women's team. Why didn't you continue to really pursue coaching? Like, did you just not really have the passion for it, or did you just enjoy when you had this new job? You're like, I like this a lot more than I think I'd like coaching.
Yeah, so I loved my time coaching. I was their volunteer for 3 years, and a lot of the time while I was still playing as well. But it was something that was super fun and just able to still be around the sport. And the girls are just such great girls and work so hard. And it was great to just push them. And I never, I mean, I always could see myself coaching. That's not something that I never thought that I would do. But with my job that I got into, it was something that became a conflict of interest. And so just because I was working with the team on that mental side, so I wasn't able to do any like technical, tactical things with them. So I just had to make that decision. And for me, that passion of helping with that mental side of things was so important to just getting to see. I know that there's so many amazing coaches out there. Nat is unbelievable, and Caitlin's been great to watch as well, and just see their relationship grow since they were college teammates, which is so fun. But getting to be in a coach in a different realm has been really, really awesome and very rewarding.
I'm going to switch back to playing. I know I'm kind of going back and
No,
forth, but I
fine.
keep thinking of things off the top of my head. So you get done with your college career. You had a very successful college career. How did you make the transition into pro? Like, what was that transition like going from playing in college to playing pro? It had to be kind of immediate, right? You probably went right into it playing in the spring.
Yeah, it was very immediate, and it was very different than college tennis. There were a lot of college players that transitioned as well in onto the pro tour, but not a lot that I knew. There weren't many from our conference that transitioned at that time. There were a few that were a couple years younger that would play on the summer circuit. So I would see and know a couple of the players, but I didn't know a lot of those girls that were on the tour, especially just because when I was growing up, I didn't play in a lot of those ITFs, which are tournaments on the pro tour just around the world, lower level. I did not play in those. I chose to go to school and just play on tournaments in the week on the weekends, and then just worked myself to be able to earn a scholarship. And so that was different than a lot of the path that other former college athletes or even pro tennis players took. And so I didn't know a lot of people. So that was really challenging, just navigating that in itself. But the work ethic was there. I had that drive and that determination to just push myself to that next level and just try to try to make it. I had a lot of success at that. First probably 8 months of my career, I did very well in a lot of my tournaments and got to top inside the top 400 in those first couple months on tour. And so that was really amazing and gave me the opportunity to make it to other levels and play in other events. But then COVID hit, and that was challenging for everyone around the world, no matter the career and no matter where you lived. So that was when the tour was shut down in March, and I was about to go abroad and travel to Japan and the UK and Canada. So, like everyone else in the world, had to pause and just stay home. And thankfully enough, with tennis being an outdoor sport that was very far apart from the person you were hitting with, I was able to still train a lot and be outside and did a lot of things on my own. But it was really hard because tennis, like unlike every other sport professionally, you and similar to golf, where you fund your own tour and you fund your own career. And so trying to figure out that piece was challenging, and making sure I could set myself up in the best way to perform. And so, long-winded answer, but it was very different from college because you're then thrown into it playing on your own and being on your own. And yeah, so different.
So you had COVID shuts it down, right? And then you also talked a little bit about how like it was hard because you didn't know a lot of people and stuff like, which is, I mean, you're talking to somebody that moved from New York to Spokane, Washington, or sorry, Boston, New York, Spokane, Washington, Connecticut, Indianapolis within the last 3 years. So
Mhm.
like 4 years. So I understand like the not knowing anybody. So with the two, like those are two strenuous things, right? Like it's strenuous to have like not knowing anybody, not having any friends, not having any companionship on one end, and it's also from not having anybody to know, that's strenuous, and then it's also strenuous to like be put into a pandemic and then have to travel again, like have to go back out there with not knowing what's next, you know. So
Mhm.
did that kind of like did those things kind of help push you away from the game?
I wouldn't say that that pushed me away. I was totally bought in during that whole entire time, and I honed in on my fitness and just a lot of like technical things or tactical things that I was working on within my game. That so without having that pause, I wouldn't have been able to improve those certain things within my game. So really getting to kind of focus on those things that I wouldn't normally have the time for, just because you're traveling tournament to tournament. And depending on how you structure your year or how you're even doing, would dictate like the amount of training blocks that you would have or the length of time. So being able to really work on those certain things, or even just my mental game, was really important during that time. Um, but then when I came back and we started getting to travel to certain tournaments, that's when I got hurt at my first tournament back. And so I was out for like 8 months. And it was an injury that the doctors like had never really seen before. Like three different doctors, I got three different opinions, and they all said like this is the first time that they've seen that injury. And it was very specific to um, uh, what a ballerina would do to their foot. So I like tore a tendon in my foot that connects like your big toe to the just like your part of your foot. So then it goes through the ball of your foot. And so every time like I would step, I would get like this really like intense like shooting pain throughout my whole foot. And so I had just different doctors saying different things, and it was super confusing. And I was like, I don't know who to believe because I have three different doctors telling me different things. So it was just a lot. And with your tendon, if you don't like, I didn't fully tear it. And so that almost like made it worse in a certain extent, because like I couldn't get surgery to just repair it. I had to just be completely off of it. And so that was really challenging. So I was trying to figure out different things to still stay moving, stay active, and still work towards just being healthy. And so I did all my rehab and all of that. I ended up going back home. I Jack and I had gotten a puppy probably, when was that? It was in October before COVID. So I ended up getting to spend a lot of time with her, and she was like the best thing for me during that time because all of my friends and my family was all working and I had a very different career, so I didn't have like a day-to-day job. So I would do my rehab and then I would just kind of sit around and try to make myself busy doing certain things. But she was really a blessing during that time and still is, obviously. But got healthy and then started training back and then had a couple months of good, I mean, kind of good success on tour. Not great, but worked through a lot. Got to play in some different locations, different countries, things like that. And then I went to Portugal. Then I did the same thing to my foot, but it was actually a different tendon. It connected the ball of my foot to my other four toes. And so that was really challenging because it was kind of like back to that rehab, very slow recovery. I did the same type of treatment. It was kind of like a shock therapy, where they like shock that tendon area, and it repairs it. It's weird. Definitely not a normal feeling. Feels like you're getting just stabbed in like the bottom of the foot. So definitely not comfortable, but at that point I was still kind of hesitant of where I was going just with my career, and I didn't know what I was going to do because my whole like identity was wrapped into being a tennis player, and so I just was like, I don't even know what I would do if I didn't play. But slowly I just started to kind of enhance that other part of me, just the human side, and was able to figure out what was best for me and um, best for my future. And that was my decision to move away from playing. So I'm really happy with my decision. It was really challenging to make that decision, but it worked out for the best.
It's funny because it's not like an unusual thing where an athlete, when they're moving away from their career, doesn't know what to do next. You see a lot of former athletes become coaches,
Hmm.
broadcasters, analysts. Like they still somehow stay within. And most of the time it's because, and if you ask them, it's like, well, I didn't really know what to do after that. Like, how do I move away from the game? It's even more wild. Like Randy Johnson, who is one of the best baseball players of all time, Hall of Famer, is like a photographer now. Like he's like an animal photographer. Ken Griffey Jr. is a photographer for the Arizona Cardinals, like for the NFL. He's like the greatest baseball player of all time. So you see that and you're like, oh, that's so crazy. This guy's doing that. But it's because like it's almost like a standard or a norm for former athletes to not know where they're going. You almost expect them to say like, I'm a coach, or
Hmm.
I broadcast, or I analyze. So finding something that keeps you like you're still near the game you love and you're still doing things like that, but like you didn't just take a route that everybody else is taking because you didn't know what to do. So do you find yourself like lucky that you found that, or do you like did you because you said like you looked into coaching, but like you kind of moved away from that reason. So do you feel like finding this was like a blessing to you?
Oh yeah, I do. And what you're speaking to is something that myself and a few of my colleagues and I are so passionate about. Just that identity piece. As athletes, like you train your whole entire life, or even a high performer, just whatever you're passionate about, like you train your whole entire life pouring into that. And oftentimes it's so easy to get wrapped up in those results or those outcomes, and it can become like how you define yourself, and that is so, it's so awful because it's not fun to feel that way, like that your results are tied to your self-worth. And so part of why I, or a lot of the reason why I love being in the space that I am, is just pouring into that person over the athlete, because that is what makes you the incredible athlete that you are. It's the person you are, and those characteristics that make you, that make me Sophie, like that's what made me the great athlete that I was. And being that great athlete doesn't define me and my worth. It's just a part of me. It's just what I did. It's not who I am. And so being able to pour into the athletes and coaches at Gonzaga, and just the other clients we get to work with, being able to do that, it's like that is the reason why we live. Like, we live to be able to be the people that we are, not to just do what we do. But it's so mixed with society and like what the media portrays at times, and it's like, let's pour into these people, and like then they can be a great coach or a great athlete, because they go hand in hand. And when that pressure, that expectations, that stress just like carries, like you carry it everywhere, like you don't perform. And it's not fun. Like, the best tennis that I played was when I pretended like I was a 6-year-old, like, go back to like how you played when you were little. Like, you just would pick up a racket, or you would pick up or kick a ball, and like you just had so much fun doing that. And so trying to get the athletes back to that mentality, obviously at a higher level than a 6-year-old, but I don't know, that's what I'm very passionate about, that piece.
You can hear the passion in your voice. Like, you could really hear the passion. So when I was doing, I want to give myself a half props here, because I always, I'm transparent with when I was doing my research, I looked at the website. I knew that's kind of what you were doing. So I saw, like, oh, there's a perfect transition into this, but I completely like botched the question. I was like, what? Wait, I like said the whole thing, and I said at the end, I'm like, wait, what's the question? So I had to put it into that. You gave an amazing answer. You gave a great answer. But I'm very transparent on this. I'm transparent with the listeners. I was all the way through, and I'm like, wait, I said this whole big thing. I don't remember what the question was supposed to be. So now I have to veer somewhere where it's going to get a good answer. But that was a great answer. Yeah, I honestly, I was not a former athlete, I mean, other than high school or anything like that. I've been around sports for a long time. But it's another thing, same thing when you talk to people and you talk to athletes, some athletes, like, they just don't, sometimes they don't know how to have a conversation outside of talking about their sport or their performance or other sport. Like, so they don't want to talk about their performance or their sport. So they'll talk about the NBA, they'll talk about the NFL, they'll talk about the NHL, like they'll talk about another sport. So it's amazing work to be able to tell them, like, hey, that's not your identity. Like, your identity is the things that make up the athlete, not the athlete itself. So you can hear the passion in your voice about it. You can hear all that. Thank you again for joining us. We're going to wrap up. I don't want to take all day from you. Where can people find you if they're looking to look more into either your business or they want to follow you on social?
Yeah, I can't remember what my Instagram is, but you can always look at my Instagram. I'm gonna pull it up. Sophie Krauel 4. I'm private, so hopefully I know you, and then we can follow each other. But I don't like to have a ton of randos following me. Maybe that's not the best advertising, but you can also look up our company, Extra Mile Institute, just .com, and you can find my email on there. You can look me up on LinkedIn. You can reach out to Chris. Totally open to connecting with other people that have similar passions or just want to learn more and get to know each other. So, yeah. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Thank you so much for joining. We really appreciate your insight and for you being here.
Yeah, of course.
I want to thank Sophie so much for coming on and sharing her story. I want to thank all of you for listening. Hey, if you listen to that whole thing and you're still not subscribed or following, please subscribe and follow. Whether you're listening, follow. If you're watching, subscribe. We really appreciate every person that does it, because it just helps the channel out. Statistically speaking, 96% do not follow. So we really appreciate you guys doing that. Make sure that you follow us on social media as well, Mad Props Pod. We're also on Facebook, Mad Props. You can get all the updates and stuff there. I'm also just going to start posting my own stuff there just because it's going to be a lot of fun. Make sure you check out last week's episode of Sketching Up. It was Sketching Up 107. Chandler Williams came on. It was a lot of fun. Definitely check that out. It's on the Schnabel Studios YouTube page, or search Sketching Up. And new Southern Hospitality is coming out next week in a couple days, actually. So definitely check out Southern Hospitality. It's a lot of fun. Kyle Scott hosts it. It's a culture podcast. It's really good. I highly, highly recommend it if you like music, if you like entertainment, if you just like being entertained. Chris Taylor and Kyle Scott are very entertaining. So definitely check that out if you haven't already. And then check out more Mad Props. We have a bunch of episodes. This is episode 54. So we've had episodes with a lot of great people on there, athletes, entertainers, online personalities, political figures, whatever you want to listen to, man. We got on Mad Props, so definitely check that out. Hey, subscribe if you haven't. We really appreciate you. This is another episode of Mad Props. We'll see you next time, man. 2 weeks. See you later.